Welcome back to Making Money Matter, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. I'm your host, and today I have asked Phil Russo. He's the CEO and Executive Director of Toubani Resources. They're on the ASX. Their code is TRE, and they've got a project in Mali in West Africa. So we're going to uncover about what Mali's like to work in as a jurisdiction, what the opportunities are for our community out there, and of course, it's my favorite commodity. It's gold. And as most of you will know, right now, with everything that's going on in the world, I'm just saying, not financial advice, but perhaps it's really a time to have a look at gold equities. So welcome, Phil. Great to see you. Welcome to Making Money Matter.
Gary, yeah, thanks for having me.
First time on the channel. So the first thing we will do is ask you to give a brief overview of who are you? Not you personally, the project.
Yeah, so we're Toubani Resources. We're at 2.4 million ounces in southern Mali, like you said. What's unique about us is we're an oxide dominant project. Oxide means soft rock, and soft rock means low energy, no drill and blast. And for us, we've got quite a lot of this material, and that's what gives this project a great chance to take that step that all us aspiring developers want to be, and that is into production one day. And so, it's an exciting time at Toubani as we're at a sort of critical juncture here, approaching an updated DFS for the project. But yeah, lots happening here.
What attracted you? Because I know, Phil, your background, you've worked with some of the big companies. You've worked for a long time in this. I think you've even got a PhD in mineral economics. What attracted, why this project? Why this? Because there's lots of projects out there. Why did Phil Russo like this one in particular?
Yeah, what I like about Kabata, what attracted me here is this project has quite a lot of optionality. And so, you could approach this one with a smaller throughput, but I think this project works best at larger throughputs, which is where we're steering it towards. And I think fundamentally, I believe this asset's a company maker for us. And so we're not a drill hole story. We're not early in that discovery phase. We're actually quite advanced. And so being able to influence this project towards an outcome for investors, which is what drives all our decision making, is what gets me most excited here. This is a project that can become a mine. That's why I joined.
What's the history of this project? Because you mentioned before 2.4 million ounces. That's quite a big deposit. And I think and you also said it's oxide, and ladies and gentlemen, that just means it's soft rock. And as Phil said, it means that the energy costs will be lower because they don't have to drill and blast this rock. It's all soft. So it's more like, I guess, Phil, like a quarry operation almost. What's the history of this project? Because 2.4 million ounces is pretty big.
Yeah, the history of this asset started offshore in Canada, and like I alluded to before, different management teams have approached it from a different position, kind of dictated almost by market conditions. Keep the capex small, start higher grade. But for us and where it sits, and to take all those learnings in for the past into today's decisions, we think it's a sub 1 gram ore body, but the advantage is it is soft rock, like I said, which is someone's plus 1 gram hard rock deposit equivalent. We think this project, what gets it across the line, is bigger throughputs, and so that's what we're doing different today than the past, is that bigger throughput plant, which means that we can show this project at a scale that it's not been seen as before. And that's what we're most excited about. So as we're working towards that over the next few months, we're excited to reveal a project that the market hasn't seen before here at Kabata.
Good point. What's the market missing, do you think? Because I said right at the start that I think you've flown a little bit under the radar recently. If you could speak to people and say, hey, guys, I'm the one that's out there. I've been on the ground. I know what this project is. What do you think the market's missing right now?
Oh, that's a great question, and I have just arrived back from Mali, having gone to visit some government representatives and the mines minister, and just to be on the ground. Um, what you forget sometimes is once you land in Mali, is the country is really a mining powerhouse. Like it is a very mature industry for that country. The largest gold mines in West Africa, essentially in Mali. That's Barrick Golds, the B2 Golds have been operating there on Barrick's case for decades, and so you've got a really strong supply chain, a really strong workforce in terms of a country that wants to support its mining industry. And so there has been these turbulent times of late. What gives me a lot of optimism is I think some of those pressures will abate in the near term. I'm alluding to their new mining code will come into law soon. I think that gives some certainty for investors. So in terms of what the market's missing, I think there's been some trepidation, just West Africa generally. I think if you look at all of these countries, but that's par for the course. That's the territory you're in. And so for us, it's to make the project go that extra distance, that extra hurdle rate, so that the capital flows to West Africa. And that's what we're trying to do with Kabata. Show it, we think it's a good project. Let's show it as a great project. And that's what we're doing.
The Kabata project itself, is that part of a much bigger system? In other words, could this, again, going back to the 2.4 million ounces, which I think is quite substantial, even though it's a little bit less than 1 gram, I think you said. It's big, but is this a district size? Like, trying to get a picture, if I can, for our audience out there, is this a start of something bigger that you're going to be looking for? How much bigger could this get, or do you want to just get it into production?
So first of all, I think we've got critical mass to take this from project to mine.
Okay.
If I'm certainly our case in the market, 2.4 million ounces is a base case. Like for us, we've got almost 50 kilometres of untested shear zones on our property, and we're part of like you said, a district play. There are companies surrounding us, nearby companies surrounding us with resource inventories as well, and so it is. We're in fertile ground. There's no doubt about that. For us, we're really focused on de-risking, and I know that could be a less sexy term for some in the market, but it's really important in West Africa to de-risk your asset. You've got a geopolitical risk you've got to maintain, but if technically you can keep that risk profile down, it improves your odds of a real successful outcome here for the company and for shareholders. And so, we are in a great location, and the more you drill, the more gold you'll find.
I'm going to talk about drilling in the moment, but let me just step back a bit, because some of my audience might say, well, what do you mean by de-risking? What are the things to de-risk a project like this?
Yeah, so for us, what we're doing on the drilling front is drilling out the deposit a further 10,000 or so metres currently. Those results are due shortly, and the focus of that program was inferred conversion. So we've got a resource model, and we want to drill those inferred material that's currently classified as waste, bring it into the higher confidence indicated category, and that'll underpin this DFS that we're working on right now. The more ounces you've got in the indicated category, the more confidence the market has in your study that's based on, all reserves. So that's what I mean by de-risking the deposit or the project is for us at the moment anyway, it's on the drilling front. And I could talk a bit more about the engineering front as well, but right now we're drilling.
Now, you just said indicated, inferred. Do you mind just for 1 second, Phil, for those people that don't have a clue, what that means?
Yeah, so in a company's mineral resource statement, there's the lower confidence classification is your inferred material, and then you're improving confidence from that is measured and indicated, And so we've got a lot of our about 1.5 million ounces of our 2.4 million ounces is in the indicated. And so we're just trying to bring some of that 900,000 ounces, call it in the inferred, into that indicated category, because it's the indicated material that can convert into reserves as part of your study work.
And what do you have to do to get that into the indicated from the inferred?
At a high level is basically increase your drill density. So the more drilling, the higher confidence the CP, the person who signs off on our resource, has in improving the classification of your mineral resource.
CP, ladies and gentlemen, just means competent person. So that what they get is they get somebody who is much more competent. And so there's a confidence in the market. That's all that means. Now, 77% of your 2.4 million ounces is near surface, and it's a relatively low grade. And I think that, and we said earlier that means that it's no drill and blast. It's easy to mine. My question is, how deep have you drilled? And are you curious that there might be like the secret source, the source of the gold? Could there be like this hot little area that's, I don't know, 20 grams per ton? Have you gone very deep? And do you think it's just a really basic thing that I'm thinking about?
You asked the right questions there, Kerry. The average drilling depth for us, I think, is around 110 meters. And, this gold had to come from somewhere. And certainly at depths where it's all open, the uniqueness about Kabata is the depth of the weathering profile. So I think we average around 70 meters, but you can see it go down to 120 meters in places. And that's really unique about Kabata. And so our drilling is focused on that top 100 meters, because we're in one big 5 kilometer long pit, and it's about drilling out that top 100. But at depth, that's why once this becomes a mine, it'll go on for a long time, because at depth is it's all open. There's got to be a source or a feeder for this gold system somewhere, and at the right time for us, we'll send some holes down there for sure. And that'll be just another leg to the story.
Oh, so see, I just get so curious, Phil. I'd be like, how can we get to this faster and quicker? But what you're saying is we can get this to mine now with this lower grade. We've got enough of it, and we can make this work as is.
Yeah, what we say over here is it's margin over grade, and so not all grade is equal. And to touch on it again, it's an oxide dominant project. It's soft rock. It's no drill and blast. It's 95% recovery, more or less, in this, and it's low strip. And you put all that together, and you can have a really low cost project. And so you'll have a wonderful margin at this kind of gold price. You'll have strong economics. So for us, it's margin over grade. We're really focused on setting this project up to be low cost. If you look at the successful producers in West Africa, they're underpinned by low-cost mines, Perseus, West Africa, and the likes. They generate lots of cash underpinned by a low-cost mine, and that's what Kabata is. And for us, it's making it the scale and the attractiveness that gets it to be a producing mine in the nearer term. So I think we're a nearer to production story than some of our peers, right? Like, given the investment already in play.
Okay, well, you caught my attention there where you said we're nearer to production. Got some timelines on that, Phil, or am I putting you in a tough spot?
When I say nearer to production, for us, this asset's already had over $100 million invested. And so we don't have to drill like mad and dilute our shareholders with lots of drilling to get us to this point in play that we are today. Really, it's about completing the final steps in our drilling, engineering the project so that it can be as attractive as possible. And whether it's us or someone else can take it into that production decision. But for us, we're permitted, like I said, And so the timeline to make a decision to put this into production is certainly sooner than some of the other, less earlier stage projects going around in West Africa.
It's fascinating. You just said you're permitted. What are the other steps that you need to go through, and what are the challenges as you come into that, I guess, final investment decision?
Yeah, so principally we're doing the DFS, and we've got Lycopodium, premier West African engineering firm leading that charge for us. The parallel step that will go with any final investment decision next year, call it, is a final convention agreement. They say, or they name it, with the Mali government. But because they're about to lift this moratorium on new permits and new licenses and basically just new agreements whatsoever with the country, that's why we're hopeful, or well, we're optimistic now that we'll be drilling. Sorry, we'll be drilling, we're engineering, and then we'll be negotiating this final agreement with the government for the project to take that FID step. So that's what we'll be doing in parallel.
You talked also about some drill results coming out. How much drilling are you going to be doing at the moment? Are you going to continue to drill? Because drilling costs money. Just checking.
Yeah, for us, it's not a huge program. It's around 10,000 meters. Again, because we're drilling the soft rock, you can get quite good bang for your buck in that drilling. And so, yeah, we should actually have the program completed in the next month, and then drill results will keep flowing a few weeks after that as well. So, yeah.
A lot of news flow coming up. In terms of funding this going forward, now, you probably can't answer this fully, but I'm going to ask it anyway, Phil. There's a lot of talk, I talk to a lot of people, a lot of talk out there about M&A and people looking at projects. Now, you've got a decent sized project at 2.4 million ounces. Would you look to be friendly with your neighbours? Would you? And also, I mentioned before, you've worked for Barrick. I think they're around the area. Are people sniffing around? I'm cheap.
Look, it's certainly the flavour of the day in West Africa. Just
Everywhere.
and everywhere. But you look at the last 12 months, all corps in a bidding is in a bidding process basically right now. Sino Gold in Namibia just got an offer. Chess has been taken out. These development stage assets in West Africa, when brought to the right position, they get a bid invariably. And so that's not our strategy though. Like, that can't be your company's strategy, but it is certainly something that is constantly in the background for any company. And for us, we keep an open mind about all of those things. And if it makes sense for shareholders at the right time, then we would be completely open-minded about it. So at the end of the day, it's what it makes money for our shareholders. And so we're certainly open to all those sorts of things.
So where do you see, like I said again, right at the start, I said, I think you've flown a little bit under the radar. Where do you see the opportunity for investors? Those people that are listening to you right now and going, oh, Toubani, West Africa, Mali, big resource, nice oxide, soft rock, if you like. Where's the opportunity right now as I speak to you in March of 2024?
Yeah, I think I just sort of bring it back to, this, hard assets have a place, right? In any gold market, through especially a proven country like Mali, that's a mining country, but through, geopolitical tensions, all those types of things, hard assets have a place, they have a fundamental value. And for an investor, for me, the risk reward is, I can buy Toubani today at $5 an ounce. I can see that when assets get taken out, they get taken out at multiples higher than that. I can see that if Kubata or Toubani goes its own way and puts it in production, it's valued at much higher than $5 an ounce. And so the risk reward, through all the different risks we've talked about today, it's heavily in investors' favour today. And so I'm not, like I said before, this is not a speculative stock where you're hoping I hit some mineralization. You can value me today. I'm pretty confident you'll get a value much higher than I am today. And then with a bit of patience and a bit of time, we're pretty confident we're going to do well on that story. In the approaching time ahead here. So I think 12 months ago to today, we're more or less similar pricing, but we've de-risked the story much more already. So for me, again, it's a pretty risk-adjusted bet.
You just said before something, and again, I like to dumb it down if you like, just because there's a lot of people that listen that are not that familiar with mining. You just said, the $5 an ounce. Explain that like I'm a 5-year-old. $5 an ounce, 5-year-old.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's basically our mineral resources of 2.4 million ounces, and it's our EV. So so you can take our market cap if you like. You'll get more or less a similar number, and that's how you get your dollar per ounce. And so that's a benchmark that a lot of the market uses. You'll see that we're at the lower end of that scale. It's in our presentation, but it's our advancedness versus where we're trading at. Some companies are trading at that multiple that they don't have an advanced DFS on the project, whereas we have that at DFS stage. We are permitted, and so we argue that we should trade at a higher multiple than that.
Well, I'll argue that you're going to have to come back on Making Money Matter more often and give people an update. So I think you've been a little bit quiet, just quietly.
There's method to the madness, and so it's as good a time as any to be on your program here, and so timely to update.
Phil, couple last quick questions before we wrap it up, and I'm going to ask you for 3 reasons people should sit up and take notice. But what's the news flow? I'm talking to you, as I said before, in March of 24. We've got drill results coming out. What are the catalysts that you see as we go forward into 2024?
In the immediate term, you'll see some infill drilling results, and in the coming weeks, and successfully executing that means we're delivering on de-risking this project that I talked about. So it's drilling in the near term, followed by an updated study thereafter. And they're the 2 key planks of our strategy and our activities at the moment. And you'll see news flow regarding that beginning quite soon.
All right, so lots of news coming up. Phil, let's wrap it up, tie it up with a nice little bow, if you like. I said right at the start that I thought that you'd been flying under the radar. Ladies and gentlemen, 2.4 million ounces of gold in the Kabada project in Mali in West Africa. Give us 3 reasons why you think now is a good time for people to sit up and take notice of Toubani.
Look, I probably at risk of repeating myself a bit here, but
that's okay.
We're at that pointy end of the project's life cycle here, in terms of showing a project that can do the scale and at a low cost that'll be really attractive to a really wide audience in the market. And so now is as good a time as any as we get closer to that point where the project will finally be able to reveal itself. That's why we're most excited, is we're getting to the fun part of the project with the drilling and the engineering. And like I said before, hard assets have a home, and whether it's us or someone else, projects with the attributes that Kabada has, they don't stay projects, they become mines.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I love bringing you stories like this because I truly believe, and by the way, this is not financial advice, do your own homework. Ring up Phil and ask him the hard questions if you think I haven't asked him the hard questions, but I think I have. But here we have 2.4 million ounces over in Mali in West Africa. And as Phil said earlier, this is a very supportive government for mining. They understand it. Big companies are there, and these guys are in the right place at the right time. And I think it's going to be a lot of news flow to come. So watch this space. As I said, ASX code is TRE, small market cap, big ambitions, and lots of news flow going forward. Phil Russo, thanks for joining me today. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks a ton, Kerry. Appreciate it.